Hi, everyone. I'm Bethany, and welcome to Leverage Lab Notes. This is our LinkedIn newsletter. Today, we're recording for our Women Leaders segment, Breaking Barriers, where we interview inspiring women in our community. Today, I'm joined by Shon Cook, family law attorney and CEO of Tabono Law. Hi, Shon.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. This is kind of exciting.
Yeah. Well, I'll just start off with a few questions. Do you want to just start with telling us about your background, what drew you to law, why do you love it, and all of that good stuff?
Well, sure. So I kind of come from Iowa, and I was a farm girl, and I was a bit of an arguer when I was growing up. And so my mom basically told me the only place that's going to work is in a courtroom. And I think
That's
she was
so
right.
funny.
It hasn't always been effective in other relationships. So, it just kind of became, I think, just the path that I went on. And it was a good fit because there's
Yeah.
rules and structure. At least that's what I thought about law. And so, how did I get here? Well, that's kind of a long story because it took over 30 years to get to this seat. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, so just in general, I just like how the law resolves people's problems. So,
hmm
kind of effective that way.
Yeah, that's cool. That's funny that your mom kind of pushed you towards law because of the arguing.
Yeah.
um, so what kind of led you to wanting to represent individuals in family law cases specifically?
I think what's interesting is that it kind of found me. So I remember being in law school and I
Mhm.
never took a family law class, and I stayed as far away from it as I could. I was absolutely never going to be involved in that because I came from a family of divorce and a lot of, those kind of issues, trauma issues that come out of it.
Oh,
I thought,
interesting.
yeah, so I thought absolutely no way. And so, I first came out and I practiced insurance defense, and then I did some
Yeah.
commercial and probate and real estate.
Mhm.
Then I got heavily into criminal defense. And then it's just, I don't know, people just started migrating. And, I started handling family law cases and they seem to fit. I think one of the things about family law is that you need a person who is very interested in problem solving, someone
Yes.
who can listen without judgment, but
Mm.
also is thinking, okay, what's our next step? How are we going to get through this? How do we reach, resolution? And that's how my mind kind of works. Okay, we got
Yeah.
to listen, we got to download and listen to all this, but we also
Yes.
got to figure out where are we going to go? What's our path here?
Yeah. That's really cool. So what inspired the name Tabano? Because I know it means strength, perseverance, unity. How is that kind of represented in your firm? And I mean, it's very applicable to family law. So I know you kind of touched on it a bit.
Yeah, so thank you for asking that because I've gotten all kinds of explanations as to what Tabano probably means. It also, one of the values is confidence. So there's really four things that we kind
Mhm.
of stand on. And the name is a South African name. The symbol itself, the Tabano symbol, means
Yeah.
strength. And then those four principles, it comes out of the Ndriki language in South Africa. And then it has those four oars that kind of go with the
Mhm.
symbol itself. And each oar represents one of those values. And I think, we were searching for something that kind of really expressed who we think we are, but
Mhm.
also that those values are what we use to empower our clients, right?
Yeah.
So most people come to us and they're not feeling very strong. They're not feeling
Yeah.
very confident. They don't feel like anyone's in their corner. They don't feel like they have the ability to get through this, right? So
Yes.
all of those
Yeah.
are things that, yeah, so all of those are things that we feel like, okay, we've got this. And these are the things that we're going to use to help you get to the other end.
Yeah. I like that because I feel like it mixes empowerment, but also with compassion. Like all of those, you meet them with compassion and then you empower them and you're like, we're gonna get through this. Like we have a solution. So that's really beautiful. And I feel like that's really meeting the people that you serve right where they're at.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a great way to put it. Meeting people where they're at and hopefully getting them to a new place, right?
Yes, definitely. Well, being a woman in the legal field, have you had any challenges that were unique to that, that you've had to face or overcome?
I always think that if you ask any woman this question, even
Yeah.
today, even if I asked you, Bethany, that we're
Yeah.
all going to have a story to tell or multiple stories. And of course, after, over 30 years practicing law, the stories are as high as I am. But the bottom line is this is right. We all in society have barriers. We
Yes.
all have things that are going to get in the way, or we can let them get in the way of us
Yes.
moving forward and having success. So there are lots of stories to tell. They're not necessarily things that I frankly want to focus on or think about anymore,
Yes.
other than to take lessons from them,
Yes.
to empower my own kids and the people I work with and the women
Wow.
I work with. And I think what happened over a period of time, and this is not to say that anything should be tolerated, but I think you pick your battles, because
Yes. Definitely.
so much of that is ignorance, right? And
Mm-hmm.
uneducated people. It has less to do with intent over time than just people, I think, not focusing on other people. They're in their moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in my mind, I just got to a point where unless it really mattered, unless it was something so in your face or so threatening,
Yeah.
and it it didn't have to require my attention. And it's amazing, really, in how many circumstances, if you ignore really poor behavior, you don't give it space, how
Yes.
often it doesn't continue.
Yeah. I
And
like that. I
not a
mean,
perfect solution, and there are times in which you have to rise up and you have to
yes. And you
and
gotta have to say something. Yeah. Yeah.
right.
But I
But
think that just
it takes a
speaks
lot
to
of
your
energy, right?
confidence.
And I think you
Yeah.
have to pick and choose, how important is this really for me to get done when I need to get done.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, I think that speaks to your confidence as a leader of, hey, this is happening right here, but I know who I am and I know what my mission is and I know what I want to do and where I want to go. And this noise isn't going to stop me from achieving that and helping those people. So that I think that is a really like great advice for people and even people entering the legal field.
I love your description, noise, because that's really what it is. It's
Yeah.
a distraction. Again, there are times in which it's not acceptable. There are times in which it's definitely harassment, it's definitely threatening, it's definitely harmful. But quite often words they're things that you don't have to, it's noise that you don't have to hear, right?
Yeah.
And when you give it space, or you give it acknowledgement, or you let someone know that it impacted you, then it gives them power sometimes.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I've worked really hard to just kind of, I saw it, I'm not going to acknowledge it, because my best way of overcoming it is to do my work and to do it well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Um, okay, so you have frequently speak at legal issues for the State Bar of Education. Sorry, State Bar of Michigan and the Institute of Continuing Legal Education. Can you tell me a little bit about what that entails and if there's any like speaking engagement that has stuck out to you?
Well, thanks for asking about that. So, every year I speak at our annual Family Law Institute, and that's kind of the event that everybody who's a family law attorney tries to get to, because it's 2 days
Yeah.
of some really intensive learning. And then I also do some teaching annually for the ICLE program to
Mhm.
train young attorneys on certain components of
Oh,
family law.
cool.
Um, so I like all of it, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes I get called up by an organization, will you come speak on such and such a topic? And I
Yeah.
think that recently happened with some financial experts. So, I mean, I enjoy all of it. Like if
Yeah.
I had a choice in life, I would just kind of do
Do it
that because I
all.
love the teaching. But the thing you asked, does any of it stand out? And I think what always stands out to me is not necessarily the particular event, but
Yeah.
how really it's kind of a lesson for me to engage in lifelong learning, because I don't instantly know all that on the top of my head, right? So I often have to go back and I've got to relearn it, or I've got to expand my knowledge base so that when I go to explain it to somebody, I don't sound like an idiot, and I can take it and take the complex part and kind of simplify it down to whatever the
Yes.
audience is. And so I think at the end of the day, my favorite part about it is that I am forced to continue learning.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so it's kind of an exciting gift back, but I'm getting probably more than I'm giving. So
That's really cool. I mean, I just interviewed your marketing director Megan, and she was talking about how that was one of the things that she loved about her job is just that continuing to like educate yourself and learn. And I mean, as like successful individuals, to be able to continue to meet people in their need and to continue to be successful, I think that is really important for us to always have an open mind and ready to like learn.
I bet you and Megan connected because you're both, in that learning capacity
Yeah,
as you
yeah,
promote other people. So that's pretty cool.
yeah. It was really cool. Um, so I know you've also helped lead a lot of pro bono projects, as I'm sure a lot of them were your favorite and that they were all amazing. Was there any in particular that stuck out to you?
Well, I can speak on an individual level. I mean, we support a lot of organizations, and my heart always kind of leans towards nonprofits that are dealing with individuals with disabilities
Mm,
or with women that are kind of overcoming trauma. So the
yeah,
Women's Resource Center just opened here in Muskegon, and they're also located in Grand Rapids, and so we kind of have had a special affinity with them because they deal with
yeah,
women that really have had an enormous amount of trauma, maybe incarceration, substance abuse, domestic violence, or just poverty. Um,
yes,
so they offer just an immense amount of resources between counseling, some financial support, job services, that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. So, if we're going to talk about a nonprofit on that level, lots of groups that, I think we've given over about $20,000 in the last
Wow, that's
years, probably the
amazing.
last 3 years. But if we're going to talk about kind of the individual,
Yeah.
probably my favorite story, and I hope this doesn't take too long. It's
Oh
always hard to
no,
kind of
please
section it
share.
down.
No,
Yeah,
please.
well, I know, but you're on a timeline, I'm sure. So there was I used to work at our church pantry breakfast. So on
Okay.
Wednesday mornings, I get there really early, and we prepare breakfast for the patrons that would come in and get things out of
Yeah.
the church pantry. And the first time I went there to volunteer,
Mhm.
I met a guy, and he seemed pretty scattered, but
Yeah.
he was also volunteering, and so he kind of showed me around and what we needed to do, and how we were gonna put together this meal, right?
Yeah.
And over time, he'd kind of come and go,
Okay.
not super reliable, and I still liked him so very much. And then he explained to me that he wasn't able to see his kids,
Oh.
and it went back in time to some behavior of his that caused it, and he
Mhm.
owned that. But there was also issues of substance abuse. And
Mm.
so I said to him, listen, when you get to a point that you're ready to do this and you're clean, let's take a
Yeah.
step. And so, and he's okay with me telling this story. So I don't want to think that I'm sharing too much.
Yeah.
So the first time we go to court to maybe start the process, right? This isn't going to be like the kids move in with you. This is going to be, are you even going to have contact? He drops dirty, right? And it was fairly significant. It wasn't,
Mhm.
just weed. And so he then told me later how
Yeah.
apologetic he was, and he wasn't honest with me. And so we waited about a year, and he came back, and we tried again. And that time he also dropped dirty, except he was pretty committed that he wasn't. And so we got an independent test, and it turns out that the test that he had was wrong, the first one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then we started plugging away because that's a very slow process when you go from nothing to try to
Yeah.
get something. And
Yeah.
he had a really, really uphill climb. But after all this time, years and years,
Yeah.
he ended up with sharing equal time of his two girls, and eventually one of them ended up just living with him full time. And that was his own perseverance, his own.
Yeah.
And what I had said to him when we started this is, I said, as long as you stay clean, I will never charge you.
Oh,
And we obviously became very good friends, and
yeah.
he's since remarried and has another baby. But my point being, that was, and it's a special circumstance because he and I connected, and he kept his commitment. He
Definitely.
never wavered after that first time, right?
Yeah.
The first time I was like, okay. This is
There
it.
you go, one strike. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And after that, he never looked back. And I have to say, he's had so many barriers and things that have happened since
Yeah.
then that really would have taken him off track. He held to it. So that's
That's
probably my favorite
amazing.
story of a moment in which I
Yeah.
committed to, a pro bono effort
Mhm.
that I feel like gave ultimate results, to him and to me. So it's just,
Yes, yes. And I mean, I feel like that's just like a testament to like when you are in family law, like there is that relationship that is built between you and your clients because they are at such a place in their life that they need like that empowerment and someone to like be in the same step with them and walking alongside them. So that is a really, really cool story. And the fact that you guys like even met like randomly, that is
oh,
very
so
cool.
random.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that we're in step. Our job
Yeah.
perhaps is to be a couple steps ahead, right? Because we're supposed to be
Yeah.
kind of leading. But
Yes.
there are days in which, I'm definitely right next to them because, but yeah, I like that in step. Very
Yeah.
nice.
That's really cool. Well, I know we talked about it a little bit, but do you have any advice for a woman entering the legal profession?
Yeah, and you know what? I wrote this one down.
Go
but
ahead.
I but I remember it pretty well. I mean, I think the first thing is don't be afraid to fail. And
Mm,
I think that there is kind of an inherent um we don't take risks as much
mm,
because we're worried about how that looks. And I think
yes.
quite often men, they don't care. They don't care what people think. Which is great, right?
Yeah,
And so
it's
we
true.
have to have the mentality it is okay to fail, and but it's not okay to stay down. So just because you fail and fall down, you got to get up and you have to fight
Yes.
for it and you have to say no one's keeping me here and I
Yes.
am going to find a way to get to where I'm supposed to be.
Yes.
Other people don't get to define us.
Hmm.
And we again, we're so protective and so worried about what other people think. Again, do men really care? Most men, you don't like me, I don't care, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, they don't like me. And and that's not gonna, I mean, we don't want to be crummy to people.
Of
But
course not. Yeah.
right, but you're always gonna have haters. And so
Yes.
I just think if anybody wanted to hear about my failures, that's a podcast that could last for days, right? But the bottom line is you're going to get knocked down and you get up and you fight for it.
Yes.
And so that's one component of it. But I think the other component is that no matter who you are, find your niche, find where you fit, find your
Yes.
expertise, learn it, teach it, live it, and keep learning because
Yeah.
that's going to also define you and it's going to be that thing that you can give to others.
Yes. I like both of those advice. They're very good. I
Oh,
do
well,
think
good.
that I mean, that's a part of learning is failing. Like you
Yeah.
can't you can't learn unless you make a mistake. And I feel like I even you saying that as being a woman-owned business, like that just speaks to your culture and that like your employees, like this is a safe space to fail so that you guys can learn and be better. So that is really amazing. I really like that. So, what is next for Tabono Law? Do you have any aspirations? Is there any exciting projects coming up? What does the future look like?
So I first want to talk about where we're at right now. And the reason I
Mhm.
want to do that is because I really need to kind of give a shout out to Leverage because we partnered with them to do our logo and our website. And
Yeah,
if anyone is considering change in, design or a change in kind of what they want that look to be in their marketing, they really need to check out, I would say go to my website, but Leverage in general. But I have to tell you, they met all my expectations
oh,
and
thank
exceeded them.
you.
And I would
Thank
say,
you.
especially in my website, I mean, it is better than anything that I even had in my head, and I
Yeah.
have very high expectations. Um, so I kind of want to give that shout out. We changed our logo, we changed our website, we changed our location. We bought a new building, and we have tenants, and we have all kinds of fun things that go with that building.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot that happened in about a year time period that was pretty
Yeah.
exciting. So there's all that. And then when you say, where are you headed next? I think most people would be like, well, I'd like to take a little nap. But
And then we could keep going.
Yeah, but I just can't do that. So long term, the plan for me, if and it's always a vision and a goal, and you hope you get there, and we're trying to set things in place. But we really want to have offices up and down the lakeshore, right? We want to be a law firm that's in communities, solving problems and meeting people, as you said, where they're at.
Yes.
So our goal is from St. Joe to Traverse City is to have offices in communities, so that people are heard and felt, and they have advocates for them, that they don't have to drive a long ways, they don't have to do everything remote. They can walk in and they have that local person there that can work for them. So that's the long-term goal, and we're trying to start putting those things in place, and we're always hiring really talented people. So attorneys and paralegals, we never turn down an opportunity to meet someone, to see if there's some place that they can add on, because I always say it's not about whether you fit, it's whether you can grow.
Yeah.
And so that's what where we're at. And I don't know if you can kind of tell, I have a lot of energy when I talk about that. I think everybody else in my office is like, whew, can we just breathe for a minute? And I'm like, no, there's so much more.
Keep going. Yes. Yeah, that's amazing. That would be really cool to just continue to watch you guys grow. And it was so awesome to be able to be a part of that with the website and the logo. I mean, I know I had so much fun doing that. And I speak for everyone at my agency that it's just so refreshing when we are working with a company that really does care about the people that they're serving. And you've exhibited that beautifully through this whole conversation. I really appreciate you coming on. I can't wait to continue to see how Tabono grows and how you continue to lead so great. So thank you so much.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. And I just want to say thank you for doing this, because it's so nice when, women promote other women.
Yes.
We have a tendency sometimes, you talk about what, held us back as women and that sort of thing. Sometimes it's ourselves, right? And not necessarily promoting people the way we need to, or giving shout outs. So your marketing firm, your firm does such a great job of promoting women. And you can feel it in everything they do, right? They're really trying to say, how do we get you to the next step?
Yes.
It's not just a marketing firm for women. I don't want anybody to think that, because I can tell you that they do excellent work just for businesses and promotion. But how they stepped in and kind of lifted us, quite amazing.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. Well, just thank you for coming on and sharing more about Tabono Law and about your leadership style and where you start from and where you are now with Tabono Law and where you're going to go. So thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
Well, thank you, Bethany. Bye for now.
Bye.